Hello everyone, welcome to today's call. This is Tony Javier, founder of Real Estate Prodigy, and today we're going to talk about rehabbing systems. So for those of you who have listened to Rehabbing 101, that's basically an overview of what rehabbing is. So basically what this is an overview of the systems that we use for rehabbing properties. You know, for anything that you do multiple times throughout the day, throughout the month, throughout the year, you want to create a system for it. So whether that's, financials and bookkeeping, whether that's, paying your bills every month, your schedule, pretty much anything that you can think of that you're going to do on an ongoing basis really needs to have a system. And a system isn't always necessarily something that does something for you. It could be basically just a guideline on how you do something. So one of the biggest things that I've systemized is the rehabbing business, or the rehabbing side of the business, I should say. When I first got into this business, I would, find contractors, I'd throw them into jobs, I'd order materials on the go. And, while I made money and I was still fairly successful, I wasn't really able to scale the business, or I would not have been able to scale the business to where it is now without putting these systems in place. In fact, I just stepped out of pretty much the whole business altogether, my rehabbing business, and now it runs on its own. And that is because I have a rehabbing system in place that when someone has an issue, when someone hires a contractor, when someone needs to order materials, they know exactly what to do and what to expect, with whatever it is that they're doing, so that they don't have to call me every time and say, "Hey, Tony, what do you want to do about this?" So let's jump into rehabbing systems, and you kind of see what I'm talking about here. So what you're going to learn today, systems that you must implement to make your life easier. If you don't implement these things, then there's a decent chance that things are going to be a lot tougher than they have to be. What agreements you must have in place to make sure that you cover yourself and your contractor. Materials handling to save time and money. And contractors to use to CYA. I think everyone knows what that means, so I won't tell you what, or I won't expand on what that means. It's basically cover your you-know-what. So let's get right into it. So the systems that you need to have in place. You need to have an interview process for contractors. I'm going to do a video on hiring and finding contractors. And one of the big things we do is we interview every contractor as if they were an employee, basically. So we have an interview sheet that's actually in your documents. If you're a pro member, it's in your documents library. And basically ask them all the questions that you need to know before you start a job. How many employees do you have? How long have you been in the business? How many jobs can you handle at a time? What are your specialties? So by having that system in place, if I tell my staff to, we need a roofer, we need a certain trade because, our normal trade is out of town or, went out of business or, whatever happens, that I can, just give them that sheet or tell them to, take that sheet and run with it. And what they'll do is they'll fill it out and they'll send it to me and I'll look it over and say, yes or no, just based on the questions that they asked and the answers that were given. So that is a system that saved me so much time over the last few years since I put that in place, so that I don't have to do all the interviews. I have my people do the interviews. They give me the answers to the questions, and I'm able to more easily pick a contractor that we want to use. Good scope of work. If you look at our sample scope of work that we have in our documents and forms library, you will see how we like to do our scopes of work. And if you look at it, it's very, very generic, the way we do our scopes of work. But at the same time, it's very detailed. So you need to create the scope of work that works best for you and for your contractors. So what you got to do is take ours and just modify it how you like. I'm not telling you that ours is the best way to do it. our scope of work is the best way for us because of the contractors we use, because of the way we do things. So, with our scopes of work, we separate, electrical, plumbing, sheetrock, and make sure that when we do our scopes of work, we try and include everything that you possibly can in that scope of work in the beginning. So when they bid the job, you're not having to go back later and try and get them to bid things that you didn't think about or things that you should have in the beginning, because that wastes, time and money, because it takes them extra time to do that, and they're going to charge you a lot more later when you have them bid it, as opposed to having them bid that up front. So having a good scope of work and a good format for that is going to help you out tremendously. We have a supply list for our contractors, so when we order materials from Lowe's, they know exactly what we're going to order. Now, there's some things that have different colors and different variations, so some things change. But if we have, if you have a good a good supply list for your contractors, then it's going to make it a lot easier for you to order materials. It's going to make it a lot easier for your contractors too, if you have your contractors do it. And it's going to make it a lot easier for Lowe's, because if they have a master sheet and you're talking to them over the phone and you say use, our usual, chrome faucet, they can go in your list, and not only can they find the item and the item number to make it quicker, but they can also look at your pricing. One of the things that we can provide to you is bulk pricing and setting you up to get bulk pricing. So if a fixture is usually $30, and because of bulk pricing, the way that we help you set that up, you can get that for $26. Then that list will actually have on your end how much it should be, and you can compare it to what they charge you. And for them to have it, they can also see it as well. So they go to their master list, punch in the item number, and then they change the price to where it should be for your pricing. So that's something that we set up just in the last couple of years that has completely changed the way that we order supplies. It's made it so much easier, and we're saving probably 20% on our materials every time that we order. For ordering materials, we have a system for that. So what we do is we order all the materials up front that we need to start the job. So any shutoffs for the property, plumbing shutoffs, any framing if we provide framing materials, any sheetrock if we provide sheetrock materials, which those two things we don't typically provide. But if you do decide to provide those and that's your model, then get those ordered up front. I'm trying to think what else. Pretty much anything that you need to start the job. If sheetrock and framing are going to be done quickly, then I order trim in that as well, and cabinets. And if they're not needed up front, if it's going to be a while for sheetrock and plumbing for framing, electrical, and plumbing to be done, then the sheetrock, then your second delivery is always going to be, the things that need to be done before paint. So, cabinets, countertops, trim, doors, things like that, that are needed in the middle of the job. If you're going to order flooring and flooring needs to acclimate in the property for a couple days before it's installed, you might even order the flooring material then. Don't like to have flooring material sitting around for a long time, so try and order that as late as possible. But if you're getting all your supplies from one place, most of your supplies from one place like we do and like I recommend you do, then you may have to add it to that list in order to get have a better delivery process and not have to have 4 or 5 different deliveries. But don't be afraid to order the materials for the flooring separately and have those delivered later if it's going to be another week to 10 days after you install the trim and cabinets and things like that. And it's also going to depend on how much of these things you need. If it's a big job, obviously you want to separate the materials, because it's going to take a long time for your framing and electrical and plumbing and sheetrock to be done. But if it's just minor for each of those, I wouldn't be afraid to order the materials for those and If you don't have very much trim or very many doors, it's like, a couple few $100, not a big deal. But if you do big jobs, a lot of them we do are bigger jobs where you have a whole kitchen full of cabinets, you have a whole main floor that needs new trim. Definitely separate those as much as you can so that there aren't a ton of materials that are sitting around, because materials are going to get stolen, they're going to get lost, they're going to get damaged, they're going to get broken, they're going to get misplaced. So the less time you have for those materials sitting around, the better. And then our third delivery, so again, the first is the things that you need to get started: framing, plumbing, electrical, things of that nature. Second delivery is going to be cabinets, trim, pretty much all the trim and trim work and things of that nature. And then for us, the last delivery is typically the light fixtures, the appliances, the doorknobs, any hardware. So basically, when we're done with everything except for flooring, and sometimes even after flooring, then we'll have all these things delivered. These are all the finished things that usually take 2 to 4 days for our guys and our contractors to put in. So after the framing's done, the sheetrock, plumbing, electrical, the painting, so pretty much everything but flooring, then that's when we have those materials delivered. And sometimes, again, after flooring, depending on the size of the job and the things that you have, because, like appliances, for instance, they have to go over the flooring. So if you can order those and have them come after the flooring and have all of your guys come in and do the finish work, putting the doorknobs on after you're done painting, light fixtures on the ceilings, after you're done, painting the ceilings and things like that. Pretty much all your finish items, that makes it a lot easier. And, a lot of those finish items are things that you don't want sitting around. So have them delivered last so that when they're there on the job site, and, your contractors know that once they're delivered, they need to work their butts off to get those installed, because obviously you want the job site finished, but also you don't want those materials laying around on the job site. So independent contractor agreement, I'm going to do a video here soon that goes over the independent contractor agreement. This is one of the biggest tools and systems that you can use for rehabbing, and that basically gets the foundation set with you and your contractor. So basically what I do is I put everything that you can think of on that contractor agreement, so that when something happens, we always reference that. So, what day do you have to turn in your invoices to get paid? What kind of, who bids the materials in, sheetrock, and who bids it in framing, who bids it in tile, so that everything is uniform and standard. And the good thing about this also is that, as far as the materials and things like that, it gives the contractor the way you do things so that you can get the same bid from every single contractor. It's not, oh, this one, bids, labor materials, and this one just bids labor. If you try and compare those two bids, you can't, because, one of them includes everything, the other one doesn't. And then you have to go back to that contractor and ask them, what the materials cost, or, what exactly what kind of materials you're bidding. We tell them, down to the T, what kind of, what quality or what type of material to bid. Is it 1/4-inch sheetrock? Is it 1/2-inch sheetrock? Things like that you would think are pretty common sense, but when you're dealing with people that are more hands-on and they don't, work with their minds as much as maybe you do, or someone that works in the office, then you have to really, really spell it out for them. And we also have checklists. So when you ever hire a contractor, we've got a checklist of all the things and forms that you need for them to sign before they start the job, to make sure that, you're not missing something. Because if you get audited by the IRS and you don't have, some of these forms, you can get in big trouble. If you don't have a copy of their insurance and something happens, then, where you think they may have been insured, maybe they don't have insurance. So that's something that you need to get up front and make sure that you have, so that these things aren't an issue in the future. Okay, so I know that was a quick and dirty overview of systems, but I just wanted you to get an idea of what systems need to be put in place. And please watch the videos on some of these things that go deeper into detail of these systems so that you understand them better. So just to summarize, use these systems we provide to you. We're not just providing these, just for content for our site. These are things that we use day to day in our business to rehab a ton of properties a year. We're rehabbing a deal or two a week that we're putting into our system that, goes through our funnel. And if it weren't for those systems in place, we wouldn't be able to do that. And even if you're doing one deal a year, if you put the system in place, it's going to make that one deal that much more efficient, enable you to get that job done faster so you can move on to the next one and to get your money faster or to get the property rented out or whatever results you want in the end. We talked about materials. Have a list of those materials, and that'll save you a lot of time and money. A lot of time and money with your contractors, a lot of time and money, with Lowe's or whatever supply house that you're dealing with, so that you guys are on the same page. Order materials in advance. I told you the three main deliveries that we do on our job sites, and of course, there's going to be deliveries in between if you have a list of things that you didn't think about. And also something I didn't mention with materials is we have a supply. Lowe's is our supply house, and they actually have a dedicated contractor's truck for us that if we call during the day and we say, hey, we need a toilet and supply line, they've got a guy that'll just run it out to us. Now, all Lowe's are probably not set up that way. This is something that's fairly new to Lowe's, and I think they're starting to roll it out into different markets now that we've tested it, and it definitely benefits us and saves us a lot of time and money, allows us to order more materials. So if you have a supply house that's willing to do that, or if you don't have a supply house that's willing to do that, check with them and see if they're willing to. If you give them enough volume, they may not be able to deliver the same day, but maybe at least the next day they can, send a guy out for a few materials rather than you having to have your contractors leave the job site, and especially your employees. I would guess that this, the way that they deliver materials to us when we need them saves hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month from our guys not having to go pick them up and, messing around at Lowe's, because when you send contractors to Lowe's, they look at tools, they talk to other people and just kind of lose track of time. So that's one big thing that you can do to help get your materials faster, is to see if someone's willing to deliver those to you. Make sure you use the independent contractor agreement and checklist. Make sure you go over that with them thoroughly so that they understand it. It's not good enough to just give it to them and have them sign it. Make sure you go through it with them very well so that they understand it. So that's it in a nutshell here for systems. Again, just make sure that you take these systems, you follow them. They're not brain surgery. They're simple things that you do in your rehabbing business that if you follow them, it's going to make your life a lot easier. And I'm very passionate about that because 5-10 years ago when I was managing these jobs myself and I didn't have these systems in place, I was running around with my head cut off and I wasn't getting near as much done as when I put these in place. And my employees love me for this, for having these systems in place. It makes their job easier, makes their lives easier, and everyone makes more money. So thanks for watching the Rehabbing Systems, and we'll talk to you next time.